Hello and welcome. Welcome. This is Mike, or I am Mike, uh, also known as Calabe. For those of you that are new to the stream, welcome. We are breaking down the monolith. So, uh, so what does that mean? Well, I've got two monolithic applications that I've built over the course of the past 3 years, and so they've become I started them off as a solo project. Um, I was the sole developer of a project that started off as a way to read some cache that then led into a project and network and da 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 da. It became something that I started to piece on top of one thing, on top of another, on top of another, and it became a very layered application. Um, and it was a monolithic application at that. So it was a very large, one jar runs everything, huge application on the front, even bigger on the back. Both of them were all single jars that were just running everything. So if I needed to make an update to something small, I couldn't just do it. I had to shut down, basically, either I had to shut down my game service to make an update to the game itself, and if I wanted to make a change to the back end, well, I had to bring down the game server and the back end so that I could change the back end and then fire the back end up. And the reason I had to do that was because some of the services, like the world list and the login service, required the game world to be in with a specific token. Like if you want to think of it like a jot. Um, if you don't know what a jot is, don't worry. It's just more or less a token that has an expiration. Um, Basically, if the world service came down and came back up, it wouldn't recognize that token as a valid token anymore. So in order to do that, I had to bring down the game worlds or worlds. At the time, there was more than one, but I would bring down both, bring down the back end, make the change, bring the back end back up, bring the game server back up, and it became a point that was, in order for me to change something small on the back, I had to basically interrupt people playing. And if it was the peak point of day, and I only needed a patch, that became an interruption. And in the world of a game, the world of something with a little bit of high priority, um, people get bored, people leave, people stop. So if there is a delay in the service and your service comes down, or your game, in my case, comes down for an unexpected period of time, then those gamers get bored. They go somewhere else, they do something else. Um, so this monolithic design became very problematic. And I also brought in some developers this year at the start of the year, and so that I'm no longer the solo developer. So that also introduced an issue of multiple people working on multiple things. With one monolithic project, it's essentially more than one person working on one code base. Whereas if it was more of a microservice design, then that is multiple code bases within the code base, because people would be able to just uh, grab a different service and do their edits to that service, and move on with their day. And there be no conflicts, yeah, or less conflicts. There's never no conflicts, let's face it. Um, so the idea was that were first trying to break down the backend project, because the backend is the part that has database into it. So I want to have a strong foundation that we're going to build on. So I'm building the backend services um, as microservices now, and we are then going to break the front end down into services and make sure that they communicate properly back and forth. Once we're assured that they're communicating back and forth, we are then going to introduce. I have a Linux VPS. We are going to stick a Kafka server or a Kafka message broker on that VPS, so that then our services are going to start posting messages to this middleman who's going to keep track of all of the stuff, so that our front end can pack in messages, or game server can pass in messages, so that nothing gets lost, and then our back end will be able to, or our services will be able to start pulling things out of that message queue and handling them. So things like alerts, messages, pauses, errors, player datas, everything that comes out is eventually going to get logged to a database and saved. And I'm doing it this way because with Kafka, if you don't know about it, basically the messages that get stored don't get erased once they're consumed. So that way, when I have consumers or microservices, I can have one that's going to consume it, log it, put it into a database. I'm going to have another one that's going to be pulling from it to handle it. So essentially, if it's an error that comes through, I'm going to log it to a database so that I have that record. But then I'm going to have another service that's going to pull from that same consumer or pull from that same table and try to then handle it, assess it, whether it needs to be sent, whatever the alert level is, and whether it needs to be sent in game, to Discord, to me personally, or however it needs to get sent. Um, Now, again, this is why I use Kafka, or why we're going to be using Kafka, because I'm going to have multiple consumers pulling these messages out of this message queue. And if we use something more like RabbitMQ, if we pull the service out to then put it into the database, we then have to also at that same time use that same service to then analyze and kick off any other notifications. Because once we consume a message with a broker like RabbitMQ, then it's gone. We've consumed it, we've removed it from the queue, and it's gone. With um, with Kafka, those message logs are not, they're not deleted when they're consumed. They're stored. It takes advantage of partitioning, and it actually stores um, the information for quite a long period of time. However, now today's uh, in today's video or episode or series or whatever the heck we're gonna call these, um, we're going to be looking at the world login. Now I want to look at the world login because let's just take a look at this. Bring my smile face up here. Bring up our. There we go. So we're going to add a new into the profile here. We're I didn't think this through, and I don't really know what I'm doing with it. Um, I guess we're just going to go with the player's controller. We're going to go ahead and add a little bit to this because right now we only have a couple of things in our controller as far as um, only a couple of things, sorry, in our um, inside of our controller at the moment versus what we need, because we need to also have a way for um, actually no, we're probably going to put this into another service in itself, so that way we can handle handle this in a better way, in a better manner. Because essentially, we're looking to handle login, logouts, updates, um, so that when a player logs into the server, we want to have a way that the server can then make a get request for the specific player profile, which we technically have right here, but we also want a way to be able to um, you know what? We can just do it here in the profile part, because we just need a way to update said profile, like update the player's profile itself. So, um, yeah, I guess we can just do. We'll just create a new um, a new post mapping here to update the player, and we're gonna need to get a couple of things out of the um, sorry, I had half of this planned out last night for what I was going to do today, but now I'm kind of rethinking how I'm looking at the old monolithic way of doing it. This is the old monolith one. It has a player login controller, and the login controller is ugly as hell, and it takes care of things like checking to see if the world is valid, and then if so, it takes care of updating the player's information in the database, as well as if it needs to, it sends a profile alert if there was an error, and like it takes care of throwing another alert if there was a problem saving it, if there was a problem creating it. But it we're we're gonna tackle that, but um, I'm gonna tackle it in a different way because I'm passing things in path variables when I don't need to. Uh, yeah. So player profile, we're gonna have a post mapping, and the post mapping is going to be to slash update. Let's see, public response entity. I don't know what my response entity is going to be right now, but we're going to just call this update player profile. And actually, because we're just doing an update to this, we're going to make this a put mapping. It's going to be a put mapping for update. Um, Now, the reason I'm going to use a put mapping is simply because we already have some information and we're looking to put it away. Make sense? So, now some of the things that we're going to need in here um, is going to be for some, more or less, for some security purposes. And I don't have it in here, so let's jump into here and I don't have an API key stored in there, so I'm going to have to just give me a second, guys. I do apologize. I should have been more prepared for this. So I'm going to drop this in here, which is going to be an application security web key, which is just going to be more or less a web key. So this is going to be something that we're going to store in a private string variable. We're going to just call it API key, cat key. All right, so now there's a few ways to go about to make this just easy. Um, value. Value allows us to pass in a string value. We can either stick it in here directly, or we can take advantage of Spring and we can feed it in through a property. Um, so basically, when this loads, this is going to get filled by this application web key. And if you middle mouse click it, it comes back. That's just an easy way to tell that it's linked to it together with it. Is if you IntelliJ's got a lot of features in it that may make things handy, like middle mouse clicking of service will take you directly to it. Middle mouse clicking will take you to any sort of usages of it. If you're at any random usage of the term, say down the bottom of the file, you can middle mouse click to go to its definition, middle mouse click on the variable name to find where is usages of said variable, or you can middle mouse click on the actual name to go to said class inside of it. Middle mouse clicking is very easy, very useful within IntelliJ. Alright, so now some of the things that we need to do here is we need to make some request headers. So we're going to go with at request header. We're going to put in brackets what we want, what the request header name is going to be. In our case, we're going to call one that says API key. And this is going to be stored in a string variable, and we're just going to call it API key, just so that it's simple enough for us to know of. Next, we're going to add another request header. Because next we want to check for a second header, and this header is going to be that of a world ID. So world ID, and this is going to be stored in a long variable. We're going to call that world ID. And next we're also going to request another header, and this header is going to be the world key. So this is basically the access token that I give that I give the world so that it can be discovered and found. Kind of like an API key, if you will, but it's the world's jot. So long as it's So this is going to be the world token, or world key, I suppose would be. And this is just going to be another string, and world key. Alright, I'm just going to add these as custom headers, just to get rid of my little squiggles. So now, for some security, we're going to make a quick little if check, because if anything, this is going to return so Alright, so basically if the API key itself is null or doesn't exist, or the API key that's passed doesn't equal the API key on our end, we're just going to say that this request is unauthorized, and we're just going to ignore it. Oh, I didn't even think of that. Jesus. Okay, Mike. Okay, so the next thing we need to also include in the header here is we need to make a request body. So the request body is going to be that of the player profile of DTO, and this is just going to be the profile to save or profile to update. We'll just call it the profile to update. So now another check, quick check, is basically to see if we're looking to see if the object is null for the body, or no, that's pretty much it. If the body happens to be null, then return new. The status no content, because there's no content to do. Alright, so next, next thing we're looking to do is make a, so actually I have to go into Discord. Oh my goodness, the yawns. So we need to make a REST client here. We'll call it REST client. And this is going to be a REST client dot builder, I want to say dot build Alright, so this is going to set up a new REST client. I need to make it a bean so that it can be auto wired. I'm going to come back into here and go private final REST client. And you know that it's wired if you click see this and you want to click the where it's coming from, you can do that, and it will take you through where it's to the places it's being used. And if you click on this one where next to the bean with the back arrow, it takes you to all the usages, or the candidates as it says. So now we see that we have it here. We can come into here, and I need to now make a GET request to the world service. So we're going to be making a GET request to our RESTful world service, because we need to request a world DTO object from a token. And I don't think we have that option. I have a world ID where I can get a world DTO. Okay, I guess we can do that. I think. We think we can do that. Yes, we do have the world ID that we're passing. So I can fetch the world ID, and then I can validate that the key matches the world ID. So now we can just call up our little REST client. I want to make a GET. I want to make a GET request. The URI is going to be equal to whatever the hell I need it to be. we're going to be accepting the media type of application.json. We're going to be then looking to retrieve the message. From there, I want to get the body of that message, which will be a, how did I say, player profile? No, it'll be a world DTO. And I want to say that's it for that. So now we're going to go back here, call this var, and call this world DTO. Goes this. Okay, perfect. So that's going to pull back a world DTO. And now we're going to come in here and check if world key dot equals world DTO. Oh, world DTO access token. And of course, we just want to quickly check if these don't equal, because it's easier to, it's just quicker to say if it doesn't happen, break out of it. So if this doesn't happen, then we're going to return to break out of this. And we are going to, we're going to return new response entity. So right quick, we're going to check to see if the world DTO that we just pulled back is null. If it is null, then we're just going to return out no content. There's nothing here. If we can go ahead and get it, then we're going to try to validate that in the token so that if the world token that is being passed equals the world token that is assigned with that world, then we're going to go ahead and, or sorry, if they don't equal, we're going to go ahead and say it's not found. Otherwise, we're assuming that it is there. So, now we have the world and we have the profile. So we know that the profile is there. It did come from a valid world. So now we can go ahead and make a call to our player's service and say, okay, go ahead and update this this profile. Or technically, I suppose we should do another check to see if the profile is even there, because, well, now we're going to make a service call to persist this data, or to update the record. So what we're going to have to do here is pop into player profile service, and we're going to look at that profile updated. We already have a method of doing that, and we're just going to pass in the profile to update, and we can actually wrap that to an if statement because that is a Boolean. So if the profile was updated, which it's going to go in, look for the profile, come through, run it, save it. All right. So if this, then we want to return a new response entity accepted. Simple. Else, just flat out else, it wasn't saved, then we're going to return new response entity that it for some reason is not acceptable. Now we need to go back and take a look and see this address that we're looking to go to. So this is inside, because this is a world DTO. So we're looking to go to API v1 universe worlds. I'm just going to copy that. Copy, and we're looking to pass in world ID / world. So back into here. We also need to take a look and see the world service properties is 8086. So we're looking to go to http ://localhost 8086 because that's where our service is on. Then we're looking to drop ourselves into API v1 universe worlds, and we need to go with world ID / world. So this here is going to need to be a string, and we're looking to pass in world ID. There we go. So now this works just like a regular string, parser. So that we can just, if we're looking to format something, we can just simply use the $s, or sorry, the $S or $B, or whatever type of, whether it's a string or a digit, depends on what we want to pass in. And so, thus, this will make a post request to our other service asking for a world, and it will then fetch said world. If the world exists, if the world doesn't exist, then there's no content. If the world does, if the world doesn't equal up, then we're going to come back with unauthorized. And if for some reason these if the player profile happens to have been updated successfully and saved to our database, then we are going to return back that it was accepted. Otherwise, it was not acceptable. So that's how we're going to go about updating our world now, or our players, is we're going to make a call to the player profile / update and pass in a few headers as well as the required profile to update. So now we have a way that we can update our profiles. We can update our player profiles so that that information gets stored and persisted. What else did we need to do? I had a whole thing mapped out in my head for what we were doing today, and gone. So next, to do with the player profiles, let's take a look and see what else. Let's take a look at whatever else we need to pull over here. I do need to work on a login, logout section for the player because I'm looking to also keep track of when the player themselves are logged into a world, However, that's going to be something inside of our world controller, not our player's profile controller. The quest service is going to be another piece that we're going to need to do, but that would be inside of the data service, I believe, that we're going to be doing. The actual world control, the old world controller. Yes, I have ways of verifying the players through here as well, which I believe should come maybe through the world service. Uh, profile service, maybe. There's a lot on this that needs to be done. Still. Oh. But my players can essentially log in, their profiles can be updated, created. Um, the economy needs to be done, the items need to be done, the data, the inventories need to be done. Uh, we do have to add some filters or add the filtering to uh, our managers. I also have to. Sorry, I'm trying to remember what exactly it was that else that we needed to do on this video. So we're gonna take care of tackling the world and logging that in, but I actually turns out that I have some stuff already done in the profile and in the world that I forgot that I already wrote. Um, okay. Um, hey, Steven, how are you, buddy? What's that? Um, yeah, you probably did because it would change the path names. It should be simple enough to just redefine the modules or redefine the artifacts. Oh, alright. My bad. Insulin thing went off. So my logs are good, but logs are good. Profile is, I think, good. Uh, oh, I think I got that error controller already. Profiles, make me guess that. World controller, I can get world ID, connect, logout, updates. Okay. It's just the profile service. It saves. Admin controller. I'm not gonna lie, I don't even know what the hell I'm doing right now. I had so many plans for this video, but I was... Wow. The website... Whoops. So, like, we can cycle through our logs and go through and see the different types of logs. Like, I can see when Steven disconnected and when he connected and when pitch black did, when items are expiring, if they have no, if they were dropped by just an NPC, then it's just dropped by null. If whether they were dropped by a player, it would say something like item expired. Chat logs, system logs. Yeah, item dropped, expired by, expired, dropped by me. I need to add in another filter, one that will um, allow me to search by the log type. Bugs, same idea. In the middle, I gotta get a spot for bug type. Player reported. Maybe I should put that as player reporting. So nobody's getting reported. Resource. Templates. Fragments. Admin. Bugs. Player reporting. So, because nobody's getting reported. Site up again. And go back into bugs. Log back in. And she shit to bed. That's because there's nothing there that says logs, Mike. It says reports. Oh. Try that again. When I say I'm not all here, I mean I'm not all here. Try this again. Yay, no bugs. Woohoo! Okay, so we'll stick another one of those. Stick the same thing on this side, but this. Oh, oh. This time we'll do switch up hands. Main error, rolling error, file error, so the so in your handlers Java, there's no such method for the Jackson thing. Um, is this after you've built the archive? And if this was after you built the archive, then the only thing I can think of is that you are potentially missing some of the dependencies. Um, I'm assuming that the archive's probably relatively small because there's also no archives in it. Um, when you go up to sorry, not settings, project structure and artifacts, if you go to build a jar with dependencies and say I want to go and build my website, I would do this, tell it wait for it here, tell it the main site would be Boneyard website, and I want to say extract the jar files from the libraries, extract them into the target jar file, and if I hit OK, you'll see that these are going to be all in here. These are all the dependencies that are related to this specific website jar. And then I would just hit apply. Okay. Go up to build profiles, Jesus. Build artifacts, website, and just build. And now it's telling me that I don't have a manifest, or that my manifest is gonna get, yeah, whatever. But now it's gonna go through and it's gonna build, the hell did I even, what project did I even build? Website? Oh, it's still building, okay. There it is. Oat. Artifacts, website.jar. If I open in, fuck you. If I open in Explorer, yeah, mine is, not that mine's not that this is the same thing as yours, but you'll see that mine's a big, large file. And theoretically, if I was to come and open up a PowerShell window, Java, jar, website.jar, it would start up. And this would be me running my jar from a terminal. Just that simple. Except it's going to throw an error here because, yeah, port 80 is already in use. But that's just how simple that was, and it generated the database and yada yada. But that would be how um, um, but that is essentially how you would build a artifact from a jar file, or how you would build a runnable jar file. It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple, honestly. Uh, and that was something that I was looking to show you last week or 2 weeks ago or something like that, Steve. I just, life got busy, I apologize, and never got around to it. However, life is no longer as busy. Um, I actually sold my software company that I had, so I've got a little bit of some stress and pressure off me from that. So now I'm sitting pretty with this, and I have more free time to have a little bit more free time to do my project that I was love. Hopefully that will work for you, dude. I really hope so. If it does, let me know. Hit thumbs up if it does. Hey, but you usually do anyway, man. Um, Alright, so what I did here was just made it so that if there's nothing to report, then I just have a little um I didn't rerun that, did I? No, I didn't. Either way, I have a little thing here now just to make it look fancy, like, haha, there's no bugs! Yay! Celebrate! And bugs. Yeah. Um, I do have a small bug in the fact that it's not showing my my SVNs over here on the side. There should be little icons next to each of these. I don't like that there's not. It kind of bothers me. Um, but we'll figure that out eventually. So logs again. We have our logs that run through. We have a paging system, so we can hop through pages. If we want to get real fancy, we can come up to the address bar and change the amount that we have. So if we just wanted to see 5 logs, we would just do there and see 5 logs, and just skip through pages of 5 as opposed to pages of 50. Yeah. And what's 10 look like? 10's a pretty good number. I like 10. I might change the default to 10 instead of 50, because 50 seems like a pretty large amount. Um, but this will give us here. I need to finish writing in the ability to uh, I need to finish writing in the ability to just stack on a date um, to each of these so that I can pick the date part. Uh, that filter is going to come. Pretty sure we have that filter done up somewhere, but I don't want to rewrite that quite yet. There was another thing that I was looking to do, and I talked about it in last night's live stream, but now I can't remember what that was. Um, so there's a few things that I still need to do as far as breaking down this monolith. Um, we have most of our services broken up now, and they're in here. There's a few services that were incomplete or like not done properly. Those are the ones that I'm hoping to correct and do more proper um, as we go. So those ones are going to be getting rewritten because they were written poorly. Um, so as far as the services that we're copying over, we're pretty much done copying the old services. We've broken things down and looked at all of them and figured out what service was running and what part of the monolith was what service. We broke it down into a multi-module Maven project. We have each of these running in different services. There's a couple that I have for set up that we haven't used yet, like the inventories and the data. Those are just 2 pieces of information that I'm not sending over uh, from the game server yet. I haven't actually modeled those yet, so those will be things that are going to come over um, in a little bit, in a little while, as we continue to grow with this project. Um, we have all of our, I believe now we have all of our services going. We have 7 of them in total. So this back-end service is so far made up of 7 different service, 8 if you include the website. Um, however, or sorry, 6, 7 if you include the website. Um, so now I also just quickly show you, as I showed Stephen, to how to make one of these into a jar file, which was just going up into the artifacts file, selecting the module, selecting the main file in said module, and from there we can built it and we have the jar. You see it on the left there, website.jar. Now we would do this for all of our files and build jar files, and then we would go and put those onto a VPS. we would set up essentially a batch script or a command script or a shell script, whatever, depending on the operating system you're running it on, and we would then um, start those services individually. That way, we have all of our microservices running on one VPS or one service, and if we needed to make changes to one, we would just simply stop that service, rebuild the jar file, or we would go in and we would edit the file first, make our changes, build our new jar file, go in and we would turn off that one service, swap out the jar file, and rerun it. It makes for a minimal amount of downtime, like legitimately, like just depending on the size, it can be just milliseconds, it can be just seconds, but essentially it is something that is going to simplify um, the overall maintenance of the project as well. And so in our next uh, in our next live stream, we're actually going to dive into the private servers code base, and we're going to look at how we can start changing our RESTful services we have there to be using these new backend microservices that we've created. We'll create a couple of interfaces that will act as RESTful clients, and so that way when we're in, we can just simply implement those files into the class, or we can call them statically. I'm not really sure how I want to do that yet, but it'll be a way that we'll be able to just make a new client, call it up with some sort of code, and start passing information to update it, start making information to request it, and start putting information to update it. And we'll show you, because now that I've shown you how to build the backend to accept all of this stuff and store it, persist it, get it, and fetch it, have it, I'm going to show you the other side where we're going to create it, pass it off, or we're going to request it and then use it. So if you want to stick with me on that, go ahead and hit that subscribe button to get notified when I start the next live stream. It'll be consistent of because I'm pretty positive. I feel confident now that we have this backend built and done for the foreseeable launch at least. We do need to get some other things in here like our quest handler, achievements, skills, and whatnot in the player data. However, I want to start being able to make sure that I can persist data as it is. So we're going to we will go ahead and take this opportunity to we're going to go ahead and take this opportunity to build the build the I want to say front end, but build the services on the game end that are going to be utilizing what we've just built on the back end. And then once we have it going from front end to back end, that is then when we will introduce a middleman, the message broker, so that way we can start firing messages off to the message broker, and we can go back to our back end and start editing that to just be pulling different services. Then we can introduce things like a notification service, an alert service, and all those sorts of things. So stick around, and we will be building something great. And who knows? Once we're finished with all of these new services, and once we're finished with all of these new features, um, I might just start streaming some of the content for just upgrading the game service, and like maybe talk a little bit more about game development as we Might start streaming a little bit to do with game development. And I don't know. We'll see what happens. But for now, keep that coffee cup full. Keep your curiosity open, and keep your skills sharp. Never stop coding. Just you have to question what will happen if I do this, or how do I do that? Chase that white rabbit. Try it. You learn something. If nothing else, you'll learn how to not do something, but that will teach you how something works. All right, Steven. Hit me up on Discord, Steven, and we will talk through that. But other than that, thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll catch you in the next live stream.